Welcome to Grace Pilled, where we explore the infinitude of God by talking about God, within God, aka interviews with people spanning the vastness of the spiritual path. My name is Hanna, and I will be your guide. I've been studying and practicing in a classical Shakta tantric tradition since 2015, and I just love exploring all of the ways that God wakes up within our own dream through the guise of individual people on this earth. For the last few years, I've been working professionally as a guide for others, doing one-on-one work and also giving talks and courses. If you ever want to chat with me, you can book a call with me on my website or join my Patreon, which is my massive library of talks that I've given over the years. All of that information is in the description. Now, let's talk about today. Let's talk about who we're listening to today. Today, I'm joined by Amelia Passer. Amelia is somebody that I know very personally. I know her in real life. We've been friends for a few years. And I have always admired Amelia's artistic prowess. And actually, when I really think about Amelia's artwork as a painter, I feel like she is much more of an artist, a true artist, than me. When I think about my artwork that I've made, which is very technically skilled, but is absolutely devoid of any heart feeling or inspiration, like when I look at Amelia, it's like she just seems like so much more of an artist than me in a way that I deeply admire, because I'm just so like I feel like I work in a factory when I'm making art. It's not inspired at all. And so Amelia is just this absolutely incredible visionary planetary artist. And so let's say a little bit more about her. So she's a multidisciplinary artist. She's an astrologer. She's a traveler who is rooted in mythos, beauty, and deep curiosity. She creates as a form of devotion, drawing inspiration from ritual, magic, and alchemy. Her work blends oil painting with electional astrology to produce talismanic pieces that are both stunning and spellbinding. That is absolutely correct. With a background in studio art and religious studies, Amelia brings thoughtful attention to both craft and mysticism. Her art lives in that liminal space between knowing and wondering. And right now, she's channeling all of that into the Astro Magician's Tarot, a tarot deck that is 4 years in the making that weaves together astrology, mythos, Hermeticism, and Kabbalah. It's live on Kickstarter, and it's not only gorgeous, it's potent. And this whole conversation, I'm calling this kind of like how to turn a painting into a talisman. This whole conversation with her is her life story, her spiritual story from childhood, when she would talk to bowling balls as an unconscious animist, into a grown adult who is like an alchemical painter who has turned 7 planetary paintings that are absolutely mind-boggling into a tarot deck. And so this whole conversation is just like a boiling towards the culmination of her life's work so far. And so it was really cool to go on this journey with her, to feel into all of the pieces that came into play in order for this incredible work of art and this incredible work of tarot to come into being. And so enough about this. Let's just get into the conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Hey, Amelia.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It's so nice to see you. You're the only person that I've interviewed so far that I like actually know.
Uh-huh.
There's one other gal that I've interviewed that I know just like in passing from Denver community, but you're like the only person that I actually like know and have like a friendship with. So that's special.
That's special.
She is special. Yeah. You're welcome. I'm so excited, because this is actually really interesting. It's like I know you. I've known you for a few years, but I actually don't know your whole spiritual story. Like I know what you're about. I know the magic that you do, but I don't know the story. So I get to learn about you today.
Oh.
In a new way.
Yeah, me too. I get to learn about myself.
Literally, though. Storytelling, like telling your own story, can be very revealing in a good way. Like, oh, wow, I didn't think of it like that. Stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I find too, like giving advice to other people, I'm often just talking to myself also. Like I'll be, you should just think about it like this and this and this. And then I'm like, take, I have to like leave for a second, you know?
Yeah. Well, why don't we get this party started? Do you have any like recent wins or like anything small or big that you're proud of that you've experienced recently?
Um, big, big things. I just, I just started a Kickstarter for my tarot deck that I spent almost 4 years working on. And it's a lot. It's like the tip of the iceberg of everything I finally worked on and worked towards. And now there's this little tip that other people can see. And it feels like finally being seen in a big way. And at the same time, I'm just like, it's, I'm not really even at the point where I felt a lot of like pride for myself in it because it feels like I've just been doing this work for so long. And then I also say that and I'm like, well, then when am I going to feel proud of myself? Like, do I have to like complete some sort of like grand gesture in order to feel the pride? So that's my own thing to think about.
It sounds like a complicated win.
It's a complicated win. Yeah, it's like not quite a win. It's like I started a race that I've been training for a really long time and now I'm like running in this marathon and like people are like congrats and I'm like I'm still running. Like that's
For
just
real. The win wasn't just signing up for the marathon. The win was like I started running, but I'm still running, guys. Like that
yeah.
sort of thing. Totally.
I'm not ready to be congratulated yet or anything. Like let's hope I finish. Uh but I tend to do that. I tend to not celebrate things until they feel like very solid and very concrete.
That's real. Will it feel more solid like once the campaign is over or towards the end? Perhaps.
I hope so. It's more of like when I reach my goal, when I reach my funding place and I know that like okay, cool. Like I can actually produce this project. Like this is something that I can bring to people. I think that'll be a big win for sure. But then I'm like, it feels like even once I get there, just knowing myself, like I'm sure there's gonna be some other self-imposed like stepping stone to just blow towards and I'll be like, I'm not there yet. So we'll see. I think I'm just noticing that's something I should probably look at.
Yeah, no, it's just part of the process. I mean, I've been seeing your art. I mean, we're going to talk more about the Kickstarter later, but like, I mean, the project, like the tarot deck, because this is literally like the culmination of your spiritual story, like from my point of view in so many ways. And so it's like, there's a lot at stake in the sense of like this being like almost like materializing the body of your life's work into a series of cards into like this physical object. And so like there's just like so much there, so I don't see how you couldn't have all of these feelings in this emotional roller coaster being like, guys, here's me, do you want to invest in me, do you want to invest in my work, you know what I mean? Like there's just, it's so tender and exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, I'm here to see you if you can't. So that's what we're gonna do today. Amelia's covering her face. So that's a really cool win. And I do want to go back to the tarot deck. I almost feel like this conversation could like lead to like the moment when that started to like accumulate or like materialize. You know,
Mm.
we could kind
Ooh.
of like lead it there, like what led to the tarot deck. But before we do that, like just for the people that are listening who don't know you, like how would you describe your spiritual practice or your spiritual life? Like how do you describe yourself?
Mm. I think one of the words that I really love to think about is animist. As someone that really believes in everything having an energy and even a sense of self-awareness to it. Something that we can interact with and that gives us feedback. And I think animism is tied to God being in everything and recognizing God in everything and the all the subtleties that come out of that and of that feeling and being able to access God and access spirit through even, the most mundane situations.
Hmm. But that animist kind of worldview or like way of viewing, like, is that like a door that makes it easier for you to see that you're interacting with God in all things? Like, is animism almost kind of like the doorway through which you walk? I don't know if that makes any sense.
Mm. Yes, and it it also just feels like a word that can kind of categorize how I feel. Like I think
Got it.
that
Totally.
there's not actually like I think that there's so many different definitions that I do really resonate with, and also like nothing can really describe um our situation of God. And I think there's a who's the karate guy, the like the main karate guy.
Jackie Chan?
No,
What?
the other Lee something.
Oh, yeah. Okay, all the listeners are like yelling the name right now, but I know what you mean.
But he has a quote, and it's God is the word we use for the blanket called the mystery.
Hmm. That just made me smile. I love that.
And yeah, I love that. I love that too, because it's like so hard to put words to these things. And um yeah, I do think language is limiting in so many ways. We can get so 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 close, but ultimately it's like we can't even touch or
Yes,
fathom
totally.
this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I feel like the language, it's complicated because it's like the language is important, but it also gets in the way, and it's like the language is the finger pointing at the moon, but the moon is the thing that we're trying to like understand.
Uh-huh. And then I say I'm an animist and people start looking at my finger.
Literally. That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Exactly. So animism is there, but then I also know that you're into like planetary magic, ceremonial magic. Like what like practices have arisen in your animism pointing at the moon experience?
Mhm. Yes. So I am an astrologer, and I have an intimate relationship with the planets, um, in a way that they're kind of their own spirit and personality that also bleeds into everything. And a lot of my practices sort of, I mean, definitely prayer. I find prayer really helpful, and a really beautiful practice of just of affirmation. Like I find a lot of times when I pray, especially from a very heartful, like, innocence place, I find that my prayers manifest very quickly, and it becomes such a spiritual affirmation for me when that happens, of how taken care of I am, and thinking about like just reminding myself, like, God hasn't forgotten about me, you know?
Oh, wait, that's so sweet.
Yeah. And
Is it like affirmation that there's an ear that's listening too, just like over and over again?
definitely, definitely. And so I do feel like, I mean, I guess because, so I'm in Greece right now, and lots of ancient mythology just embedded in everything, and it was traditionally a polytheistic culture. And I think from the outside looking in, I might be seen as like a polytheist maybe, but I don't resonate with that word because I think it's all the same. Like there's all just this one spirit that we're interacting with, which is present in all things. And at the same time, a lot when I pray, I am speaking to this sort of omnipresent God. But then when I'm doing more like practices and rituals, it's speaking more to these individual personalities and spirits.
Totally. Totally. I get that. Yeah, because I'm a pretty hardcore, like, non-dualism enjoyer, where it's like everything is the one spirit. But then when I think about like individual spirits or individual planetary energies, I'm like, well, that's just like a flavor of the one spirit that I'm interacting with.
Totally.
I try not to like make everything so segregated or like dualist in my mind when I think about these things. Does that check out with you?
Definitely. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, so you have a very intimate relationship with the planets. You're an astrologer. Do you do like when you say you're an astrologer, like that, is that like working with people, or is that like also just like informing your practice and your way that you're relating with your life?
It's both. It's both. I do readings for people, which I love doing, even without their knowledge. I know everyone's birthday that has ever told me their birthday. It's like ingrained in my mind. In fact, recently I had a dream where I was interacting with all the children I went to elementary school with, and I looked at all of them and I told each of them their birthday. And it was correct because I know that information. Um, so yeah, that's the thing. Who use it to inform my life and thinking about when I'm gonna do certain things. My favorite flavor of astrology is electional astrology, which is an election is a specific date where based on where the planets are aligned. So if I'm going to fly somewhere, maybe either domestic or international, I'm always going to look at the chart that's happening during those times and not let it, I don't really like let astrology restrict me. It's just more to inform my experience
Totally.
of like,
It's like checking the weather.
exactly. It's just like checking the weather, and I'm still going to go somewhere if it's raining, but I would just bring an umbrella or
Or you don't want to get caught without a jacket.
yeah, exactly.
That's so real.
Yeah.
That's so real. That's so
Yeah.
real.
That's surreal.
That is surreal. Okay, so animism, astrologer, intimate relationship with the planets. Does magic come in? Where does magic come in?
Oh, I think that I think that magic is intertwined with all of it. Um, I think I think for me, like magic is many things, but thinking about the way that I work with magic, it's more of like a tangible prayer in a way. It's something where I'm putting a very specific intention into a prayer, which combines certain elements to bring about the thing that I want. So, um, if I'm trying to complete a specific goal, I'll kind of look at the flavor of that and then look at, what planet matches the flavor of that thing, and then create a ritual around the specific thing that I'm trying to bring forward. Um, but I think so many things are magic. Like I think most people that say magic isn't real, I think that they're thinking about it in a very narrow way, because I think it's fucking crazy that we put like a seed in the ground and cover it with dirt and then put water on it and then put sunlight on it and then it grows into a tree. Like, that is crazy.
Well, that we don't call that magic because we claim that we understand it.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. And so I think that magic is just what we can't quite understand yet. But I think really everything is magic. The fact that we can grow other humans in our womb is magic.
Oh, totally.
Just electricity is magic.
No, definitely. The internet is increasingly becoming magical.
The internet is so crazy.
We're having
a conversation right now.
Totally. You're like in a different continent.
People are gonna listen to it. There's people hearing this right now in the future.
Hey guys, what do you guys think?
Like, what we're saying.
Oh my God, totally. Yes, no, I'm totally with you. It's like everything is magic. I'm like a student of the awe and wonder that's required to begin to see that everything is magic. That's like what I'm all about.
Yeah.
And I also really like what you're saying about magic being a tangible prayer. And what I think I'm hearing you say is like when I'm putting together something like a ritual, like all of the objects and my intention and the planetary forces that are at work in that is like this tangible prayer that I am creating. Am I getting that right?
Yes, definitely.
I really like that. I really like that. I also think there's something so human about gathering all of these energies and objects to petition for something to happen in a way that, like, I just think is so natural to the human experience. And I think it's really sad that that's been kind of beat out of the average person due to so many nefarious forces at work in our reality.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I think there's, exactly, something so human about the ritual. And I don't remember the etymology of it, but I remember hearing at one point ritual means connection. And then spiritual is like connect the breath with spirit.
I like that. But then there's like a marriage between the two, or they like interact with each other.
Yes. I like that. I almost think, of course, spiritual. Of course, a spiritual is always inherently some sort of ritual or connection with our breath. But I think there's also something with a ritual, with a intentional ritual that has to involve the breath in some way.
Yeah, totally.
Whether that's prayer that we're speaking or a way of breathing, it all comes back to the spirit.
Totally. Yeah, I remember when I was in college, ritual studies were a big part of my undergrad and end of undergrad study. And this thing that's sticking out in my head right now from ritual studies is that a ritual requires a performer.
Mm.
And so I almost feel like the spirit and the breath is like part of that performer side of it. It's like the ritual needs the performer.
Oh. I also love I love thinking about spirit is the space that exists between you and me.
Yes.
And so when you're saying like the ritual needs a performer, it's like we need that third thing, like the performer and then there's the audience.
Shit. Oh shit. Yeah. Oh
And we're
shit.
doing
Yeah.
for the thing that we're performing for, right? Which is, deity, spirit, God, whatever you're feeling, but it invokes a spirit, which is that space in between.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, it's like such a weird thought that's coming up for me. I'm thinking about like the commonly understood vision of what a magician is. And it's like
Mm.
somebody on stage performing and like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. But I almost feel like there's something like secretly esoteric about that, where it's like the magician is performing, but like an actual magician is performing. You're performing something for the audience, like what you're saying.
Mhm.
What do you think about that? That's just like a random thing that came in my head.
I love that so much. And it makes me think about the whole like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound?
Ooh. Right. Like if the magician is performing and there isn't an audience, does anything happen?
Right. Is it still magic?
Is it still magic? I don't know.
I don't know. Hmm. Hmm.
Well, when I think of you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think of you as like a planetary magician.
Mm.
Does that
Mm.
feel right?
Yes, it does. I do feel that way. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that I even as you say that, I think that there's just so many connotations to it. Um, yeah, but doing magic, working with the planets,
Mhm.
spe- 'cause that is the type of magic that I work with.
Mhm.
That would be the correct terminology. But I think, yeah, I don't know, when I think about like magician, the esoteric magicians, like I think we all kind of go to like Aleister Crowley. So like,
You're like, I'm not with him.
yeah.
We go to a different school.
Yeah, I don't, he doesn't even go here.
Oh my God. Well, this has been really interesting giving all these interviews about people's spiritual stories and how they describe themselves because when I think about how I describe myself, it's literally such a surface level thing. It's like I'm like a tantric yogi. That's like so surface level, but I almost feel like it's like me giving myself that title will just kind of signal to the right person like, "Oh, this is the type of stuff that I'm into." But when they like get towards me, they might find out my specific way of doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Totally. Totally. Like, yes, I can resonate with that for sure.
Yeah, it's like an attractant. It's like this is like kind of like the stuff I'm into, but then like when you actually get to know me, you might see that I have like a very specific spin on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, how did this all start? I mean, like, okay, so we're here, like, the most surface level analysis of Amelia is animist astrologer who does planetary magic, these sorts of things. But it's like, how did you get here? Like, have you always been into spiritual stuff? What's the story?
So I was born in 1993. Um, just kidding. Um, okay. Um, so I was an animist as a kid. I didn't know that I was. I didn't have a word for that. I had a ton of stuffed animals as a little lad, and they all had names and they were all very much alive. And I also had imaginary friends that were
Girls,
alive.
plural.
Yeah,
Multiple.
sure.
Yeah, okay, totally. I'm with you. I just was like, yeah, you got multiple imaginary friends. Hell yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, yeah, from a young age, I was always kind of in touch with things that other people couldn't see. I remember going bowling with my family when I was really little, and I would take my bowling ball and I would talk to it, and I would tell my bowling ball that I wanted to win, and it was the most perfect bowling ball in the whole world. And thank you so much for doing such a good job for me. And I was winning. I was like winning full on. And my cousins were like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "You just have to talk to your bowling ball." And then all my other cousins were like talking to their bowling ball, like trying to like
Wait,
get it.
stop.
Yeah. I got that to happen. So yeah, I think I was definitely always an animist, even though I didn't know what that meant. And then so I was raised in Mississippi. And my family's Jewish. I was raised Jewish. And Mississippi is the Bible Belt, and there's a lot of Christian people there. And I felt very othered by them. And I didn't really feel like I fit in at all. Everyone would always ask me where I went to church. And when I told them I didn't go to church, my family was Jewish, they would tell me that I was going to go to hell because I wasn't a Christian.
That's so bold of people.
Yeah. So since I was really, really young, I was told I was going to hell. And I in order it was it was definitely like a way of feeling like tougher than other people. I started to label myself as an agnostic, which is like a very silly term.
Wait, did I pause you for a sec? Were you doing that because you actually felt that way or to get people off your back?
I think it was to get people off my back.
Mm.
And I think it was also a way of me to fully other myself from people because I felt so ostracized. It was like a way for me to cope and be like, I'm not anything like them. I don't even know if there's a God. Like, I don't even like look at these people just like blindly believing something like obviously science. I'm like, well, like obviously science.
Oh, I can relate with that. Wait, but am I also hearing you say you weren't like particularly invested in Judaism either? Or were you like, did your family go to synagogue?
So something about Judaism, which is cool, you don't have to believe in God to be Jewish. So,
Right.
in the main components of it is the struggle. Israel means struggle with God, which haha.
Oh God.
Anyway,
Anywho, so
uh, so one of the really foundations of Judaism, of Jewish thought, is a dialogue of questioning God and not just with everything that's being said. It's
Mm.
like it's very common for the congregation and the rabbi to get together and have a debate about things that are happening. And this is just atheism. And so it doesn't in order to be Jewish, you actually don't have to really believe anything about the Jew. So yeah, so that being said, it wasn't those two weren't mutually exclusive.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that. And so you even doing the agnostic thing was also just did that just kind of come naturally? Because that's kind of the way that you're already thinking.
I think it actually came. So I was really enamored by my brother growing up, and he's older than I was. And just really anything that he did, I would kind of jump on the bandwagon. And I remember, yeah, like one day kind of talking about God with him, and he was like, I don't believe in God. And I was like, oh, like having to like sort of be like, I guess me neither, Yeah, me neither. Um,
Okay, so you really admired your brother, and so that was part of the story too.
yeah, that was definitely part of the story. And but I also was a Jewish summer camp kid. So I grew up going to Jewish summer camp every year. And I remember having really beautiful spiritual experiences from a young age, going to Shabbat services and singing songs with everyone. And there was something so beautiful about the Shabbat and Havdalah and lighting candles and all the rituals that were involved with what we were doing in these services, and how really connected I felt to a spirit and to God during those times. And um I remember I actually went to Israel as a kid when I was 15. And this was my first like very spiritual experience. But I went to the Western Wall I was with a youth group, and I went to the Western Wall, and I remember like approaching it and having like just like all these feelings about all the people that had come before me and walked up to the wall and said their heart's deepest desires to this wall. And it's common for people to go to the wall, and they whisper their prayers to the wall, and they write down on pieces of paper their prayers, and they stick it into the stone crevices of that. And I remember walking up to the wall and putting my hand on the wall, and it was like I got this like shock from the wall, and I just started sobbing, like just sobbing. And it was just like I was so overwhelmed with the feeling of being there, and how deep and profound it was that so many people before me for so long have come to this wall and have prayed here. And it was so tangible for me, even. And I didn't even I was still, quote unquote agnostic during that time. And that was profound for me. And I think that kind of that definitely like shifted some things of how I saw God and saw the world. And then
Wait, so can I pause you for a sec?
yeah.
So it's like you're animist kid talking to the bowling ball. And then like you get older, you're going to summer camp, you're having like Shabbat experiences, almost like the ritual aspect of the lighting of the candles that really kind of starts stirring something inside of you. And then all of these things start culminating in that shock experience. And then it's almost kind of like that experience, like emphasis on the word experience, like started to shift things around in your heart or kind of how you were feeling.
Yeah, I think it more just I think it was like an underground shift, because I don't think it really started to show up in my existence. I think it was like yeah, something that happened under the surface to kind of in turn later inform more of my spirituality. And even at the time, I didn't think about it as like a profound spiritual experience. Like I didn't have the terminology to even know what had happened.
So it's like in hindsight, you look back on it and see that as like a key moment or like.
Yeah, definitely. Or at least like really the first time that I really felt a presence of God come through. Um,
Okay, so you're like 15.
I was 15. Yeah. And then 16, I started smoking weed.
Let's go.
Let's go. And I think that really catapulted me into my spirituality now. And it was it was just really the first time that I started to be both very reflective, and also n- sort of rid myself of my social anxiety. Um,
Oh, that makes
and
sense. Given like what you experienced growing up, like people literally othering you, telling you you're gonna go to hell, and then weed shows up and is like an antidote, or not an antidote, like a balm.
yeah, it felt like a balm. I was always very self-conscious growing up. I had crazy social anxiety, and the amount of time I would think about something stupid I said 4 months ago was just like, lying in bed at night, like not being able to sleep because I said something a little bit off color to someone else and I can never forget about it. And like calling people for solace and being like, "Hi, remember 6 months ago when I said this thing? Do you remember when I said that? You don't think that they're still thinking about that, right?" And people being like, "No one's thinking about that."
And then you get frustrated because you're like, why am I thinking about
Yeah.
it?
So I think, yeah, the weed came in to really help my self-criticism. And I think the self-criticism that I was going through all the time inhibited me from actually having an experience of presence.
Oh, totally.
Because,
Oh,
right, that's a form of our egos. It's just like how subconscious.
totally. Yeah, like in my tradition, we talk about the inverted ego a lot, and the ego is like the thing that shields us from being with presence, like straight up. And the inverted ego is the critical voice, like telling you you're a piece of shit, like you suck, you'll never be anything. Like that's the inverted ego.
Yes, 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 yes. I love that. Totally. So, yeah, I think really like the beginning of weed allowing me to get out of my own way, really, so that I could just enjoy an experience. Because I think, like, I do think there's really something to, I mean, for me in my experience, there's really something to enjoyment and recognizing God.
Totally.
And even in experiences of struggle, for me, like, I can be like, wow, I'm struggling. Like, I know that this is God too. Like, I can tell myself that. But it's like, for me, until I have that reprieve, that's when like the prayer is able to really like come through, and it's like thank you this for this relief. And of course, I wouldn't have felt this relief and this reconnection if I hadn't been disconnected in the first place. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
yeah,
the contrast is necessary to really feel that relief. But I'm also hearing you say like when I'm in the disconnect or the concealment, as I would say, yeah, it's like it's God intellectually, but like you really feel it in the enjoyment and the relief.
yeah, exactly. And so I think through my process of letting go of my own self-criticism, I was actually really able to develop more spiritually. And then
Wait, can I ask a clarifying question?
yes, ma'am.
So like, okay, so you're 16, you find the weed. Um, And then like just like the way weed works in your system, it just kind of quieted down the voices. Like what actually happened?
Yes, it did quiet down the voices. And I felt like it was like such a friend to me.
Oh.
Like, I really felt like so much less alone than I had felt my whole time growing up, of being,
Oh.
so sort of othered and ostracized. And I was able to, yeah, smoke weed and like feel like this fun and lightness, even when I was by myself, especially when I was by myself, and also with friends and others. And um yeah, I never thought about it actually quieting those voices, but I think it did that, and then it turned up the volume of life being enjoyable for me.
Totally. Totally. Or life became so enjoyable that the voices got drowned out.
Mhm.
I don't know, it could have been any iteration of things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then 18 hit. Uh I that sort of the summer after I graduated high school, I started to take psychedelics. I started to take mushrooms and LSD, and then moved to Boulder, Colorado.
That's where we met.
Yeah.
Not at the same time, but we met in that city many years later.
Yeah. Later. And I think that was like the next sort of catapulting phase into my spiritual growth, and just like really had so many epiphanies, aha moments, like of course like lots of deep self-reflection, and lots of introspection and awareness of my body, awareness of what I was putting in my body, of how I was making other people feel by the way I was acting, and just so much really came through from those medicines. And
Oh, like
that,
psychedelics.
yeah, from
Totally.
and then when I was 21, I was involved in an ayahuasca church, a Santo Daime community for a few years, and I was taking a lot of medicine that way too, and sort of the same thing. It was like a spiral effect of like, oh, I've seen this before, but now we're even like deeper in. And
Totally.
yeah, I think I wouldn't necessarily prescribe that lifestyle to other people. I think that I pride myself on like my solidarity with myself. Like, I know that even if I were to kind of take a lot of drugs and be catapulted away, I know that I'm still solid and I'm still here. And
Mm. Amelia cut out. She cut out right after she said, I'm still solid and I'm still here. And then she cut out. Holy crap, that's so funny. Oh, that was so funny. You literally said, I'm still solid and I'm still here, and then you weren't here anymore. So we're good. I'll just cut that out. But so you were saying no matter what I did, I felt this sense of solidity
yeah,
and presence in myself.
yeah, yeah. So uh I don't remember where. I think I was just
Well, you were talking about psychedelics. You were talking about like being in the church. I wouldn't necessarily prescribe that to another person. Da 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 da.
yeah. Um but I think something happened, like on a, let's say, molecular level, where I do think that the amount of ayahuasca I drank came in and like reprogrammed my psyche.
Okay.
Like I think, and it wasn't something that I consciously had to do work about.
Mm.
Like I do think that like something happened and then, a few 4 years later, I feel differently. Um, a lot of like, even like the self-criticisms, the the self-conscious behaviors, and even how I want to treat other people and how I want others to feel when they're around me really shifted.
In the Santo Daime period, let's call it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it, like I said, the spiral effect of like revisiting these lessons that I'd already seen. I do think during the Santo Daime ayahuasca period, there were a lot of things that were really solidified into bringing me to the station that I've come to.
Totally. Totally. Well, so can I ask a or like a curious question?
Yeah.
So like, okay, 18, you move to Boulder, psychedelics starts happening, 21, the ayahuasca church. During this time, are you like doing any like personal research on certain spiritual ideas? Like, is the planetary stuff here yet or?
No, I was actually I got a degree in religious studies from CU, from Colorado Boulder, and I was also in college when I was like doing the psychedelics and the ayahuasca, and so I was like still going to classes and like learning about things, which was silly and
That's a
silly,
very college in Boulder thing to do. It's canon.
very college and Boulder things to do, but like it would be like Friday night and I would like leave my class and like go to an ayahuasca ceremony and then like come back on Monday, you know, ready for class. And I definitely like it wasn't just like, oh, I drank ayahuasca and then I was a good human being. That's not what happened at all. I definitely like went through a okay, so I have this analogy for the spiritual path. And basically, when you start out on the spiritual path, you have a stick and it gets shoved up your ass. And what it does is it makes you stand up straight. Okay? So you're standing up straight, but you have a stick up your ass. And then through the spiritual path, what you have to do is remove the stick from your ass, but then remain sitting up straight. And so I went through a period of having a giant stick up my ass before I actually removed it. And, I still slouch sometimes. My posture.
But you remember what it felt like to have the stick up your ass?
I definitely remember what it felt like to have the stick up my ass, but I like to think now I've, I hope and I like to think now that I don't make people feel the same way I made people feel when I had a stick up my ass, because it was like I was vegan for many years. When I was vegan, I thought everyone else should be vegan.
Oh, that's part of the stick up your ass thing.
Yeah, or like just very much like just like not really having negative feelings and just being very positive thinking and just only wearing white and just like oh, I'm not gonna drink that because that has fluoride in it. Like very uh no, like that non-organic sandwich would kill me. I cannot
It's gonna blow up my chakras.
Yeah.
I can't afford it.
I'm gonna blow out my chakra.
That's gonna blow out my root chakra.
Yeah.
Okay, so the stick up your ass thing. Oh, okay. But it teaches, but this is what I mean, I like this analogy a lot. There's a stick up your ass, it gets you to sit up straight. So it's not like a useless thing to go through. There's something there.
Yeah.
So like the sitting up straight kind of kept you on the straight and narrow or kept you on the path. Like what was it, the sitting up straight?
I mean, literally, like, I think about this sitting up straight, like the same position we have when we're in meditation.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
This very, like, connected to spirit. Very great. Very, I have the right intention here. But the way I'm going about it isn't pleasant to those around me. And I very much in my life, I want people to feel comfortable around me. I want people to feel non-judged when they're around me. I don't want to impose my own beliefs or the way that I think. I'm not trying to change anyone's opinion. If someone says something that I absolutely don't agree with, I'm not gonna say that they're stupid and wrong. But that wasn't the case when I had a stick up my ass.
That's where you're at now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so was there like a quality of kind of like righteousness with the stick up the ass? Like, I know the way.
That's what I'm trying to say. There's righteousness with the stick up your ass. There's super self-righteousness. I'm living my life better than this other person. Very judgmental.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that I have, all the answers, and I could tell you why you don't have all the answers.
Okay, and so okay. So then did the ayahuasca arc kind of shake that out of you? Was that like a big part of that?
I think so that I think it was part of it. I don't know if it was the ayahuasca that did that. It was so something that was happening when I was kind of in this phase is um so I don't know if you're familiar, but like in when taking ayahuasca, there's a certain type of like dieta to follow. There's protocols to go by. And I was doing this like every weekend, every other weekend. And the time that I was actually allowed to exist, was very like little, if not at all. But I was still existing. I was still smoking weed. I was still eating my kimchi and drinking my kombucha and doing these sorts of things. And so then I would go into the ceremony and I would come with all this baggage of I'm not good enough. I'm so sorry that I drank coffee this morning, like just feeling really, really bad about myself.
Wait, can I pause you for a sec? Is it because like literally you either needed to stick to the dieta all the time or there just like wasn't enough time to like not do the dieta? Is that kind of what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, both things. Exactly. Yeah.
So you'd get there and like you were just like someone in their early 20s in college showing up, drinking coffee and eating salt, probably.
Right, exactly. Like I had salt and some like, like a banana that morning or something. The MALIs.
So you're showing up imperfect. That's
Yeah, I was
very good say.
perfect, and I was beating myself up over it. Like I was just feeling so bad about myself. And I remember sitting, this was one of my last like ceremonies. I remember like sitting and I got this voice that came through. And the voice said, "No one's punishing you but yourself."
Aggressive.
And it was like, and I pretty much like stopped drinking ayahuasca regularly after that. It was like this profound, like, oh, I don't need to be doing this. Like, I don't need to be making myself suffer every weekend. Like,
Oh, interesting.
no one's and she's not punishing me. The medicine is not punishing me. I'm the one punishing me.
Mm.
And that was sort of my release from that phase that phase of my life where I really started to take the stick out of my ass.
Whoa. But okay, so that voice, no one is punishing you but yourself. Was that like spirit speaking to you? Like that was just like a message you got?
I think so.
Yeah.
That was how I interpreted it.
Yeah. And you were like, message received. I'm gonna put the phone down now.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, exactly.
I'm gonna stop calling you. I get it now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
I had been like,
Oh, that's so compassionate.
yeah.
That's so compassionate of spirit.
Yeah, she's nice like that.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, what year was that? That was 2017, 2018. That was 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say, yeah, 2018 is when I really started to do art full time. And so I wasn't as involved in like a spiritual path at that point. And even though I do see art as a spiritual path. And I can go into there's so much self-reflection goes into a painting and the mental sort of patterns that come through of painting and how it's just so many life lessons are translatable, just like trusting the process and making a really good foundation in order to
Totally.
have things be easier later,
Oh my God, totally.
like doing things right the first time so you don't have to do them again later. And like so I would say really refining my craft during that time.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna pause you again. So, people that are listening at this point don't even know yet until literally right now that you're an artist and a painter, and that's like the main thing that I see you as.
Mm.
And so that's also a huge part of this Amelia-ness too. It's like the painter, the art, all these sorts of things. That's how I've always seen you. I never knew you in a time when you weren't doing that. So that's so deeply embedded in my idea of you.
And ayahuasca also had a conversation with me about that because I've always done art and I was painting a lot, not a lot in college, but a bit. And then when I started to drink medicine, I wasn't doing art at all.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I remember I was like showing up like I want to have a profound realization, like where's my profound vision, my profound realization. And yeah, the two really big messages I got were no one's punishing you but yourself. And then another one I got was, why aren't you doing art anymore?
Yeah, like what happened?
Yeah, like it was just like this voice of like, why aren't you doing art?
Ooh.
And I was like, huh, okay. So yeah, I when I started to sort of revisit art. and that really started in like 2016. So it did overlap into sort of the plant medicine realm. And if you look back at my older works, a lot of it was like plant medicine themed.
Mm-hmm.
So something I thought that like that was like a new thing that no one was doing yet. There's no one out there that's like drinking ayahuasca and painting. Like that could be me. So I started doing, and then yeah, in 2018 I kind of like moved away from that specific theme,
Uh-huh.
and started kind of doing like still like spiritual, like I would say like visionary type art, but it never really felt like my voice. And all that I mean by that is I remember I was always just like looking for external inspiration, which of course like and is a lot of times external.
Totally.
But it was something where I really had a hard time thinking about what type of art to make. And I would get a lot of artist block. And that was always my main question I would ask other artists is how do you deal with your artist block? And
Wait, you mean in the post ayahuasca art stage?
yeah,
Okay,
actually,
gotcha.
like
Yeah.
in time. Um, and so I was creating and I was getting better. And I was definitely like refining my craft for a few years. And then I'll fast forward to sort of COVID time. And so now we're like 2019, 2020. And I started to really kind of get into more like esoteric occult stuff. And that started out really with alchemy and with plant alchemy. And so side story, I used to work at Alfalfa's, which for the
Rest in peace.
RIP. For those who don't know, Alfalfa's was a grocery store in Boulder. It was a really, really good girl. She was really good. And I
Lots
was
of
working
soup samples.
lots of soup samples, lots of nuts. You could just really be fed in there, going in and out.
Like scavenging.
Yeah, like
It's a free lunch.
yeah, you can have a free lunch at Alfalfa's. But I was a cashier there, and this was in 2016 actually. But so this was during my kind of stick up my ass phase, and I was very into like everything is a gift, mind manifestation, like everything everywhere has a meaning, which I don't disagree with now, but it was like it was like cringy during this. Anyway, I was asked to take out the trash one day. Amelia, go take out the trash. And that was not my job to do.
Okay.
And so I took that as a sign of something important is about to happen to me. Something really important is about to happen to me. There's something for me in that trash. So I go outside. I go to the trash cans outside of Alfalfa's. And in the trash is a laptop case. Only nothing else, just a laptop case. And I thought that's weird. And so I'm like, here it is, you know. And I take the laptop case out and I unzip it. I reach my hand in. Inside the laptop case is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean.
Wait, shut the fuck up.
It's the book, The Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean. I had never heard of this book. I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know anything about alchemy. So this is the book that says, as above, so below, as within, so without. It's like the main alchemical text.
Oh God, this is so weird.
Oh, yeah. So I had no idea. So I remember like being like, what the fuck is this? And I go back into my little cashier, my little stand, And I start flipping through the book, and I remember like having like a ha, what if this is the coolest book you've ever seen in your life? And then I'm like, ha, no. And then I start reading it, and I'm like looking around everywhere, like making sure like no one can see me, like reading, like it was like I had discovered this like secret thing that I couldn't even believe that I discovered. So uh I always think of that as like my initiation into the
Oh, but you weren't ready for it yet because you were just in stick in the ass phase or like.
Yeah, I was doing ayahuasca. I thought it was like, I got into like what is the book? Like The Secrets of the Flower of Life. And I started getting into like Egyptian mythology and like that sort of thing, but definitely just for fun. Like I never thought that like people were actually doing any of this stuff. So fast forward 2020, 2019, 2020, I started to really get to know plants. That was something that I really wanted to cultivate, was my knowledge of the plants. I thought it was so cool, the people that could walk around and know what every was. I just was like, oh my gosh, wow, I want to do that. So I got into plants, and I got into sort of the occult world of Hermeticism, which Hermeticism is sort of the arts of Hermeticism are astrology, alchemy, and like magic. And I wanted to be involved in all of those. And the sort of the core of Hermeticism is to use all these things to become closer to God, to really get to know God, as sort of this, as above, so below, as within, so without. It's this interchangeable way of, through getting to know nature, we in turn get to know ourselves, and then it's
Totally.
a feedback thing.
Absolutely.
So I started really delving into those things, and my best friend is a psychic medium, and she gave me a reading, and she was like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I see you doing some sort of ritual with your paintings, and you're making some sort of grid situation, and you have crystals and you have incense, and I don't really know what you're doing, but like there's something happening with the ritual and your art. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but cool. And so during this time, I'm also like just trying to find all the books that I can on Hermeticism and magic. And I end up discovering that this one book exists. And it's either I can buy a copy for 1,000 doll hairs, or it's available at the CU library. But because it's COVID, I can't go to the CU library. So I spent the next 6 months on a quest trying to petition a student at CU to check out a book for me. Finally, like literally like 6 months later, I meet a woman who has a little brother going into college who knows a girl that's going to be a freshman. And I'm basically like, hey, you want to make $50? Pay this girl $50.
Like black market book deal.
Yeah. And it was so silly because literally it was because it was during COVID, you couldn't actually go in the library. So what they would do is they would put the book that you checked out outside on a bookshelf in a brown bag. And so I literally went to the CU library to pick up this book in a brown bag.
Yeah, totally. Like it's an illicit object.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, what was the book?
Should I say what it is?
I don't know. Do you not want to?
I don't know. I mean,
You don't hate we who?
we need to like revive the libraries. Everyone needs to start going to libraries. So the book is called Amulet and Alphabet. And it's the first book in the Kyrenides. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's Cyrenides, Kyrenides, but it's supposedly a book that's written by Hermes Trismegistus. And I didn't know why I wanted this book, actually. I didn't really understand it. I just knew this is a book written by Hermes. I would like to read it. What it is it's a series of talismans that were made, all corresponding to a different letter of the Greek alphabet. And it's all done through symmetry. So, alpha is like, okay, you have a stone that starts with alpha. So all the talismans have all four elements present. There's a stone, which represents the fire element. There's a plant, which the stone is buried with, which represents the earth element. There's a fish engraved on the stone, which is the water, and a bird engraved on the stone, which is the air. So I didn't really I didn't realize what I was reading, but I was essentially looking at one of the first known instances of talismans.
Oh. Okay, wait, for the people that are listening, can you explain what a talisman is?
Yes. So a talisman is an object that has been magically programmed to possess a certain energy in order to carry out a certain task. A talisman is something that actually brings energy towards you, which as opposed to an amulet is some towards something away. So a talisman brings towards an amulet. So it was amulets and talismans in this book. So it kind of led me into this whole other rabbit hole of, okay, how do I make paintings into talismans?
Yes, I was waiting for you to say it.
Here we go.
Here we go.
We've arrived.
We've arrived.
We've arrived.
We've arrived.
So it requires really like the Hermetic arts, which is astrology, alchemy, and a magic ritual in some way. And so I studied this book, and I didn't understand it at all. It was it's
so real.
It's very scholarly written. So it's not like a magical book. It is, but it's like peer reviewed and stuff. Like
it's not like a grimoire. It's like a bunch of Western academics trying to understand the history of something.
Exactly. Exactly. So it was actually really cool for me, like hindsight, like many years later, picking up the book again and reading it and being like, I know exactly what's going on here. Like,
that's so cool.
Like, oh, this is a Saturn talisman they're making, even though it doesn't specifically say that. So I did all the research I could in order to learn as much about talismanic art as I could, which traditionally talismans were always some sort of jewel or jewelry. It wasn't necessarily like a piece of art. But that was really what I wanted to cultivate in my practice and in my offering, is making works of art that actually possessed a certain energy.
Okay, wait, so then now it's coming all together with your friend with the psychic reading of you need to turn paintings into ritual.
Yes, exactly.
Threads are coming together. Are you like having that experience when this is happening? You're like, oh shit, this is like it?
Oh, totally. 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 And we learned like later on, because she didn't have like a way to really describe what was going on, but later she told me that she was having visions of my moon painting when she did that. Mhm.
Ooh, okay, she's having visions of your moon painting. Is that foreshadowing for like the whole series that started to arise?
Totally. Like I believe that she like really did have a premonition for the series that I was going to start. So, um, in the alchemical path, you start out with plant alchemy, which is like really the only alchemy I feel comfortable dabbling with. The other ones are animal and metal. Um, so
Metallurgy?
metallurgy. So Paracelsus, who was really the first alchemist to start using alchemy as a form of medicine as opposed to just turning lead into gold, he was like, no, there's actually something here to, help cure people. And he's the father of modern medicine and modern chemistry. And he really believed I believe he was a hermeticist, and he really believed in the connection between the plants and the planets. And all the plants have a personality that you can really see reflected through the planets and vice versa. The as above, so below axiom. So he advises that when you're starting on the plant path, you want to make 7 spagyric tinctures, one dedicated to each planet. So a spagyric it's just like a tincture, except for instead of throwing away the plant matter at the end, you burn it. This is a simplified version of a spagyric. So you burn the plant matter until it becomes ash, a white ash, and then you filter the ash through purified water, and you take that purified the filtered water, the water that's been rinsed with the ash, and you dehydrate it, and what you're left with is just salt crystals, which represents the body of the plant. And you take the salt crystals and you re-add it to the tincture, and that's a spagyric. So he recommends that you make 7 different spagyrics, each dedicated to a different planet. So, for example, you would make a chamomile tincture, a spagyric, and chamomile is ruled by the sun. The reason is because it's warming. It also looks like a sun. So this stuff is very it's kind of like more obvious than we think it is. Like
Like the
once you
doctrine of signatures.
exactly. Yes, it's all about the doctrine of signatures. Exactly. So you make a different spagyric tincture for each day of the week, each planet. Each day of the week is ruled by a different planet, and you're only working on that spagyric, that medicine, during its planetary day. And if you want to go deeper, you would do the planetary hour, and then you would in turn, after the spagyric is completed, you would start taking those internally on their days of the week in order to align yourself with the energies of the planet. And this prepares your spirit to start both like spiritually understanding more and also like physically being able to take more alchemical tinctures of sorts. So you're basically prepping your body. So I thought, as someone that wants to make artistic talismans, I need to initiate myself on this process. So that I took that ideal and I translated it into paintings. So I did 7 planetary paintings, only worked on during their days of the week. combining that, the alchemical piece of that, with planetary magic, which is planetary magic is electional astrology. It's like it's like kind of the same thing. It's like looking at specific times of where the planets are aligned, and then through ritual, through prayers, you're encapsulating the energy of that planet into a specific object. So that was how the my Seven Basics series started. And Seven Basics is what Paracelsus calls the seven spagyrics.
Wait, so you made the seven spagyrics and then also were making the paintings like at the same time?
I made the seven basic spagyrics before I did the paintings.
Got it. Okay.
And then also like was taking the spagyrics while I was doing.
Oh, totally. Okay, wait. Okay, I'm just thinking into everything that you're saying. So you're making the seven spagyrics, and in making the seven spagyrics, you also have to take them. And then you're getting information about like the planetary qualities, their energies, their attributes, and all these sorts of things. That's going into the creative process now. Is that like information that you're gaining from the planets informing how you're going to make the painting look?
I think so. I mean, I really I didn't do a lot of conceptualizing when it comes to what the paintings would look like.
Oh, cool.
The way that I approached my my technique is also alchemical. It's a way that I've found of working with oil paint, and it goes into, so in oil painting there's sort of the three main components. You have the linseed oil. I use linseed oil. You have the actual paint pigment, and then you have the mineral spirit. So if we think about alchemically, the linseed oil represents the soul or the sulfur. The mineral spirit represents the spirit or the mercury. And then the paint pigment represents the salt or the body. And so the way that I work with paintings, the way that I think about them is I start out very much in a ritual space and really taking myself out of the equation. And it starts out with mostly mineral spirits. So really how I think about the difference between spirit and sulfur, spirit is the universal spirit. It's something that we can all tap into. Whereas sulfur, the soul element, is more individualistic. So the sulfur is what makes a rose smell like a rose. It's a personality element. When I started painting, and I use the mineral spirits, I'm wanting to really step out of the way and remove my own predispositions of how I think a painting should look out of the equation and just let the spirit come through and do whatever it needs to do. And then as that gets worked, as the spirit gets more and more worked, there's sort of a shift that happens where I start to actually see something within the painting. It's similar to like putting shape into clouds or something like that. And then once I sort of establish what's going on, once there's been a communication established, then I go into the sulfur aspect of my painting, which is what I call making executive decisions. So I start like actually making things into form, informing information.
Wow, dude, there's so many layers to what you're saying right now. It's crazy.
So, in this point, I'm using more of the linseed oil. And if you're familiar with oil painting, this also follows the traditional technique of working lean to fat. So leanest being the mineral spirits, middle way would be the sulfur, and then at the end, the thickest is the paint. So I work the painting up until a certain point, and then I start adding the body. of the painting, which is the pure pigment. So at that point I'm not really adding oil, I'm just adding like paint like that I'm mixing together like
Right.
tube. So I didn't, when I did all these paintings, I was using that technique, and I wasn't, I never planned out any of the paintings.
That's so cool.
They all I knew was the color that I was going to start with.
Like the base underpainting?
Yeah. Like an area. So like Venus was green.
Oh, right. Also, just to reiterate for whoever's listening, it's the 7 planets. You made 7 planetary paintings.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
So the underpainting for Venus was green.
Yes, because Venus is associated with green. And yeah, so each of the paintings started out just a very loose color until I really saw more of a structure come through. And then I would start making executive decisions as to, what would be in each piece. And through this process, once I was in the sulfur part of my, the soul part of my painting phase, that's when I was really like looking into what are all the symbols associated with each planet, because I'm making planetary talismans, and the key to the planetary talismans was I need to make a painting that reminds the planet of itself so that
God.
it will be compelled to enter into the space. It'll be able
Hello.
to do it.
That's so good. I just love everything you just said.
And so through that, it was like, I wanted to grok the paintings. Before I even started this process, I was really just like grokking. I have a giant map of like all the associations you can think of associated with every single planet. And the tarot cards were on those associations. And I wasn't a tarot reader. I had a tarot deck, and it just wasn't ever something that I was really gravitating towards. And what happened was the cards came through the paintings for the arcana, because they're all the major arcana are associated with a planet or a zodiac sign. And within each of the planetary paintings, I have the zodiac signs that they're associated with. So it was like looking at, okay, there's my Taurus symbol. And right under that is, a picture of Hylas and the nymphs being, Hylas being abducted by these nymph demigoddesses. And they clicked. They all really clicked. And I didn't plan any of it. Like I never like had to really sit down and be like, well, what's going to be this card? Like it was obvious to me. Everything was so
Like guided, or you found the right insight at the right moment. Like it was just very seamless. It was easy for it to come together. You were just in the right mindset for it to all kind of come together.
I think so. I mean, that's what happened. Like it was definitely a lot of work, but the work was just doing the painting.
Oh, the work wasn't thinking so hard about how it needed to look or what elements really needed to be there, or like doing a ton of like hyper planning all of the elements.
Exactly.
It was just sitting down and getting it done.
Exactly.
Mm. Mm. I happen to remember like when you were doing the Saturn painting, you were like using like bones for black or something. Like you also would use different minerals in the paintings. Am I remembering that right?
No, you're right. So all of the paintings have I mean, it was as much association as I could possibly think of and put in. But each of the paintings has a different, like, physical element that's associated with the planet. So Saturn rules over the metal lead. So there's lead white in the painting, and then it also is associated with the color black and death traditionally. So Saturn painting is only bone black, which is made from animal bones, and then lead white.
Mm-hmm. 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 What about some of the other planets? I'm just curious, like what were the minerals?
So Venus has malachite, which is a really beautiful green color. And what was so wonderful about working with malachite, so all the mineral paintings are they're precious. And in my painting process, I typically like do layers and layers and layers. And so I never wanted to use any of my mineral paints until more towards the very end, like more towards like that salt phase I was speaking about. And I wouldn't advise someone to just introduce a brand new pigment at the last stage of your painting. Like that's not really like in terms of painting part of the rules. But what was really amazing about the malachite in the Venus painting is as soon as I added the malachite, it was almost the exact same shade as the rest of the paint I've been working with already. Like it perfectly matched. And then I also added copper in the Venus painting. Copper is the metal associated with Venus. Um, Jupiter has lapis lazuli. The sun has gold. Mars has iron oxide. Mercury has cinnabar, which is a paint with mercury in it. The moon has silver. And I also there's a process called the Mish technique, which is, I use casein for it. And casein is a milk-based protein, which is for the moon of painting with milk. And when the moon was waxing or full, I would use the casein. And then when the moon was new or waning, I would come in with the shadows.
Oh, cool, dude.
It was like every 2 weeks I would work with, okay, now we're doing darks and shadows. And then 2 weeks later I would do, okay, now we're just doing white, like with the phases of the moon.
Shut the hell up. That's so cool. Okay, wait, so we only have so much time left, but all of these paintings are now part of the tarot deck that
Yeah.
you've put together. So let's spend some time talking about that because that feels like the crown jewel of this process.
Yeah. Yes. So all the major arcana are within these 7 paintings.
Mm.
And they're all, a lot of them were worked during specific elections, specific astro times. Like the Hermit is the card associated with Virgo that was worked when Mercury was in Virgo. Like during, specific, it's in the 10th house or it's conjunct the ascendant. These are astrological words. Yes, yes. The minor arcana.
Wait, let me pause you for a sec. So the Hermit card in your tarot deck is a zoomed in photo of like a part of a painting.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, so I just want to so people can picture what this is. So it's like each card is like a zoomed in part of one of these 7 paintings that you did. Am I getting that right?
Yes, yes. And it's actually a good way to learn about the tarot because they all fit together as their planetary paintings in the major arcana. So you can see like, oh, the the Temperance card is Sagittarius, and it's also ruled by Jupiter, and like, oh, so is the Moon card. That's the Pisces card, and like and then they all click together as one painting.
Oh, that's so cool.
And yeah, it's been such a labor of love process, and I feel really just so grateful that the cards decided to show up. There's I don't remember who the author is, and I'm so sorry, but there's a creative book where ideas are talked about, and this idea that ideas are like their own kind of spirit, and what they do is they come in and they kind of poke people, and they need to be nurtured to in order to bring them to fruition. And if that person doesn't nurture them, then the idea will just go somewhere else.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like this whole process was nurturing a bunch of ideas coming in from spirits, or?
Oh, of course.
Hmm.
Definitely. Like, I feel like I was specially chosen for this job, and it was like they were like, hey, do you want to do a ton of work for 4 years and not? I was like, sounds cool. Um,
Wow. Okay, wait. So just to be clear, this is a 72 card, like
70,
traditional. How many?
78.
78 card, like traditional tarot deck with the major and minor arcana and all the cups and other stuff. Like, I just
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah. So the 22 major arcana are all within the 7 planetary paintings, the talismanic paintings that I had talked about. The rest of the cards are within 4 different paintings, and each one is a different alchemical process based off of the elements. And the minor arcana are associated with the Sephiroth on the Tree of Life. So, and that's just across all tarot. That's just how it works. Twos represent Bina, and sixes are the Tiferet card. So what I did is I made the 4 different alchemical paintings overlapping the Tree of Life. Starting with the top is the ace of a specific archangel, and then it follows the lightning bolt symbol down into the 10 of Malkut, which is the culmination. And then you have the 4 court cards in each corner. So the cups suit is the process of making wine. So it starts out, the archangel is at the top, and then the 2 is like picking the grapes. And then it goes down into all the processes, all the steps, until 10 being the final culmination of, okay, now we're drunk and we're dancing, the 10 of cups. And then the swords is the process of the forge. So the 2 starts out and it's literally mining for the metals. And then it goes through the whole process until actually the 10 of swords is like the sort of the Excalibur, like situated in the ground, but then there's a fallen sword, and that has to do with the 10 of swords meanings, and kind of this this mental sort of defeat that we've gone through after the whole thing. So it's like after the battle of it, after the battle of the swords, now the sword is just there. And the wands is the alchemical process. So it's based off of a 14th century alchemical text called the Splendor Solis, which is a text in just pictures. And it goes through each of the specific, like, terminology of that, but it's also just in pictures, so it's very symbolic, the wand suit. And then the pentacle suit is the process of making bread. So it starts with harvesting the grain and then ends with a family sharing food.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. I
Thank
think this is an amazing thing. I think you've been blessed with an original idea. How often do we find that?
mm, thank
I think it's
thank
so cool. Okay, so the Kickstarter is happening right now. It's April 9th, 2025. When does it end?
So it ends May 10th, 2025.
Oh, we got a month.
So yeah, you have a little bit over a month to back it up. And the fun thing about Kickstarter is it's all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically need to reach my goal or I don't get any of the funding. And
Exciting.
none of it happens and all your money goes back to you.
Oh, got it. Okay, so if somebody wanted to invest in it, it's an all or nothing. And then like if somebody does and want to support you, like what do they get? Like do they get a deck or?
Yes, so there's different tiers. The first 200 backers get a discounted deck. Um,
Oh, cool.
then after the first 200, then it's just a normal deck. And with the deck comes the box and then the guidebook, which I also wrote.
Oh my God,
Uh,
yes.
yeah. And sort of the next tier, I just added this, is you can get all those things, plus you can get a reading with me. So I will call you probably over Zoom and we'll do a little tarot reading of my interpretations and explain your life.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah. Um but yeah, so yeah, you get the deck. You get a first edition deck and I'm only making 500 for the first edition. So, and they're going to be signed and numbered. So, in 10 years when the deck is a big deal, you're going to have a really cool investment.
That's right. No, like for real though. Oh my God, that's so cool. Well, we do have to wrap this up, but this has been like a really cool, like slow boil towards like the culmination of this whole path that you told us about today. Like it all leading to this tarot deck. And of course, there's going to be something else. You have a long life to live.
Mhm.
There's going to be other things too, but this is cool. It's like the culmination of all this work.
It really does feel like that. It like you're so right. It is like everything that I've learned and gained coming to this deck, and even my guidebook. I felt that way writing it. Of like, I was really able to share all this knowledge that I've cultivated in some way. I think that like as people on the spiritual path, we're always like, I'm gonna write a book or like I'm gonna start a podcast. So yeah, writing the book really felt like an authentic way to share some of my nuggets that I've gained on this path and in a way that made sense and is shareable.
Totally. Oh my God, I love it. Well, just to start kind of like closing out here, like what was it like for you to tell your story today? Did you like learn anything about yourself or like see anything about the story in a new way?
Hmm. It felt like, I mean, it was cool to just like review. Like I don't think I've had a review like this. To really see like how one thing led to the other and really the profound synchronicities that had to have happened to lead me to receiving this idea in the first place and then to bringing it into fruition and um
The trash can and alfalfas.
the trash can of alfalfas. I know when Thoth gave me a book.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, I
Oh,
love.
that's so cool. Well, people now know about this amazing Kickstarter campaign and to support the production of this tarot deck. And then, is there any other way that you would want people to maybe reach out to you? Like, is there anything you want to shamelessly plug?
Yeah, you can find me on my Instagram, which I'm continuing to shamelessly promote myself until my Kickstarter ends. So my Instagram is Amelia Passer. Um, there's also the Astro Magician's Tarot.
That's the name of the deck.
That's the name of the deck. The Astro Magician's Tarot is also on Instagram. And then on my website, I do astrology readings and I do electional dates. So if you are trying to get married and you want me to pick your wedding date for you, I can do that.
That's cool.
Yeah. My website is my name, ameliapasser.com.
Cool.
I have an Etsy page, which I have like kind of planetary merch.
Yes.
Yeah, hell yeah. If you're trying to also get into your planetary practice or just like feel more connected to them, I have different merchandise that you can wear for each day of the week, each planet, so you can feel more connected that way. And yeah, I'm out here making art. So
Do you do commission work as an artist?
I do. I do commissions. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So that's just something to plant into someone's mind.
Totally. It depends on how cool the commission is.
I feel you.
I don't take every commission that I get.
Like, you're not going to do a pet portrait unless it's like a cool planetary pet portrait.
Do pet portraits. Specifically during the holidays, I do pet portraits, but yeah, no, I'm
You're not like jumping out of your seat to do a pet portrait.
I'm not jumping out of my seat to do a pet portrait. But you know, yeah, I'm out here. I'm a traveling artist. If you want to pay me to do your pet, I will strongly consider. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Okay, well, all of those deets are going to be down in the description, and I'm so glad that I got to hear the full story today. This was really cool for me to hear.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me and thinking of me, and it was so fun.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like this is actually a really good example of how much knowing about the process of a piece of art can like deepen the way you feel about it. And it's like I've always thought that the thing that you were doing was like so original and inspiring. But like to hear like the whole process, I'm like, damn, this is like 10 times cooler than how I already felt, you know? So hopefully whoever's listening is also like, wow, you can turn a painting into a talisman. Like this is just gonna like open people's minds. So it's really cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, well, we're gonna stop the recording and then we'll talk to each other another time in like 5 seconds. Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.
All right, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening. The information for the guest that I brought on today is down in the description wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, you can see what I'm all about on my website, hannawilliams.com. That's HANNA Williams.com. Or you can catch me on Instagram at Grace Pilled, Grace Pilled. And I post videos and memes. That is a place where I am definitely the most active. And if you feel really inspired to dive deeper into my work, I especially recommend my Patreon, which is my massive library of everything I've ever taught over the years. And so I'll see you there, or you'll just keep listening to the podcast. Do whatever you want. You have free will as always. Thank you for being here. Be sure to check out my Patreon, which is my massive library of talks and courses that I've given over the years. And if not, just stay tuned for more episodes, and I look forward to sharing more with you. See you next time.